I'm Chris Vestal, and this is DC SLA Radio. The following is the audio from our Meet the Candidates for SLA President-Elect event. For more information about our events, visit our website at www.dc.sla.org.
All right, I want to welcome everyone here this evening. Thank you for coming to our President Happy Hour with the SLA President-Elect candidates. We're thrilled to have Deb Hunt and David Cappoli here visiting with us. They're both from the West Coast, so we like the fact that they have come to the East Coast to visit us, and they're on a whistle-stop tour of the East Coast. They're starting in Washington, they're going to New York, and then they're going to go up to Boston. And we're happy that they're starting here with us first. So, and I should introduce myself. I'm Lois Ireland. I'm the President-Elect of the D.C. chapter for 2011. And I'm going to... my fan in the background. So we're going to give David and Deb a few minutes to say some prepared remarks or a few things that they would like to start with. And then I'll hand it over to Mary Taylor, our chapter president, with some other prepared questions. We had a few things come in through the listserv to ask, and then Mary's got some other things to generate the conversation. After that, we'll open it up to questions from the floor. So be thinking of what you want to ask Deb and David. And, no, don't put them on the spot. We want them to think Washington's a nice town. We've been put on the spot quite a bit already.
On the spot. They promised to make us sing for our supper tomorrow in New York City.
Yeah, that's
so.
We can march around here.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
We go alphabetical order.
All right. And there is no way that I could memorize this in as much as I think of these words when I sleep, but it's too nervous when we first do it. So, well, thanks for the opportunity to talk to DC SLA. Really appreciate it, and thank you to DC in particular for helping fund candidate vacations. No. I wish. But because we're out of pocket otherwise, and it really helped us get here, so we really appreciate it. So the last time I was in D.C. was for the 2009 conference, the Centennial Conference, and I came by red-eye, just like today. Except that 2 years ago, I had angered the travel gods. After arriving at National on a rather bumpy flight that night, Delta couldn't find my luggage, my hotel room wasn't ready. I had to present at a CE course that afternoon following the flight. I was on the conference planning and Centennial committees, so I had to present awards to contest winners during a break in the course, and I had to meet the keynote speaker, former Secretary of State Colin Powell. And all I was wearing were cargo shorts, a rumple T-shirt, and sandals. With the help, rather informal. And it was Sunday in D.C. With the help of an industrious saleswoman from Banana Republic, which I did not know still existed at that time, she helped reclothe me. The Banana Republic, yes, the industrious saleswoman. She helped me put together essentially this outfit that I'm wearing. It's my lucky DC outfit. But then I went on to an incredibly energizing conference just like the one in Philly that was also incredibly exhausting. It was exhausting because the two of us, we seemed to have been in multiple places all the time, from the early morning till late at night, introducing ourselves, chatting about the association, schmoozing with people. But it was also very energizing because everyone's enthusiasm and willingness to share their stories and experiences just really gets me going. And I realized that just like my first SLA conference in Denver in 1980, or in the 1980s, it was about the people, and the people who continue to offer guidance and support. And this is why, since being asked to run for President-Elect, I focused on the terms renewal and engagement. From students to those new to the profession, to established professionals, to those near or in retirement, we need to connect with these people and engage their participation in SLA. We can learn and benefit from all of their knowledge. SLA has been at the center of my professional growth, providing me with the network that has supported me throughout all of my positions, giving me more opportunities to lead than any of the jobs I've held professionally. and SLA members are the ones I turn to when I'm confronted with difficult tasks. Fellow members offered input during tough budget times which happen all too frequently when working at a public institution in the state of California. In fact, after being asked to document the potential impact of the loss of my position a few years ago, it was SLA colleagues that provided me direction when I began to look elsewhere for job opportunities. This network convinced me of the value of my experiences, which I could bring to another organization. I hope to bring to SLA my experience with students whom I have advised for some time, as well as my work with continuing education for information professionals. With students, I have the opportunity to counsel them in their pursuits, as well as to be infected by their excitement as they look towards the future, even with this troubled job market. In delivering continuing education to professionals, I hear about their needs for opportunities that will help them succeed in their organizations, whether they're in public libraries, academic settings, or specialized environments. I'm very honored to have been asked to run for President-Elect, but I'm also keenly aware of the challenges. In taking on these challenges, I will look at ways in which the association can engender a sense of belonging and inclusion through more transparent and clear communication. How it can be a bridge for students and new information professionals connecting their education with their professional lives. And I will look at how to determine if the conference revenue model is sustainable and what the alternatives might be, such as regional meetings. Additionally, I want to focus on developing a more coordinated and robust virtual presence for SLA. Thank you.
Thank you. So, I've had a great afternoon. I've been with Ann Caputo out at Susan Pfeiffer Canby's home up somewhere in the woods of Maryland, enjoying the forest. It's beautiful up there, and I'd never been to that part of the country, so I thank Ann for hosting me while I've been here and spoiling me, and for being able to see. I've been to D.C. before, but I'd never been north of here up to Maryland, and it's so beautiful. So I didn't fly a red eye, so I'm grateful I got a pretty good night's sleep last night. So thank you all for being here. I know everybody has a really busy life. So why am I running for SLA President-Elect? Well, I bring proven leadership skills to this position. I have prior experience as a director on the SLA Board of Directors, as chapter president, and in many other leadership positions in the San Francisco Bay Region chapter and in SLA divisions. I'm an innovator as the creator and team leader of SLA's 23 Things. The 23 Things contributed to a mindset change for SLA members and enables us to embrace new technologies, new tools, get ahead of our users, and to lead rather than follow. For this effort, I was awarded an SLA Presidential Citation by Stephen Abram. I know how to get things done, grow new leaders, and create and strengthen programs for our members. I see my colleagues struggling with layoffs and job insecurity, yet there are vast opportunities for information professionals, and I want to see us benefit from those opportunities. I've demonstrated my adaptability and flexibility as my career has taken many turns. A few years ago, I was laid off from my job after 14 years of working at the Exploratorium, which is a science and art museum in San Francisco. And it was a big adjustment, even though I had a consulting firm that I've been running on the side for many years, but I ramped that up. I do that full time now. And what I've seen in my consulting work is what I see happening to our profession. When I first started consulting, most of my work was library automation and design, and then also value-added research using proprietary databases. But what I'm finding is my clients have started to say, well, gee, we can find all the stuff in our library, but we can't find any of our internally created content. Can you help us out? And so I've added document management, content management, that sort of thing to the services that I offer. Though I still do library design and automation. I'm working on a Montessori school right now. And most of my clients are not libraries. And so there's a huge market out there for us with our skill set. My candidacy theme is career sustainability, which is about growing in our jobs now and in future jobs as we continue to deepen and broaden our expertise and experience. We need to be resilient, taking our skills with us no matter where we go. How can SLA support this? By identifying career and professional growth areas, by providing opportunities to grow our skill sets, whether we are new to the profession or in our mid or post-mid career years, by continuing to lead the way with member benefits such as the 23 Things, the Future Ready blog, and Click You, and by reaching out more to our international members. We can build on our past, but we must look ahead to the future. Like other professional associations, SLA is experiencing a downturn in member numbers, but people will join and will stay if it's a sustainable and valuable professional association. Everything from the annual conference to continuing education must be on the table for review. It won't be easy, but we must make tough decisions to survive and even to thrive. I'm passionate about what I do and what we do as a profession. Together we can create a more healthy and sustainable future as we grow our skill set and shout from the rooftops the value that we bring to our employers, potential employers, and clients. I would appreciate your vote for me as SLA President-Elect. Will you join me in this endeavor of association and career sustainability? Thank you. Okay, so let the questioning begin.
Thank you very much. We solicited 2 questions, and I have a couple of questions for you, but I really want everybody to have a chance to ask their questions. So I don't want to, but I am curious. Dave, you have talked about expanding our virtual presence and unifying communications and the importance of that. And Deb, you talked about career sustainability and about the sustainability of SLA. So I'm wondering if each of you could tell us what 1 or 2 concrete things you would do, if elected, to address those issues. And I think I guess, Dave, you started, we'll start with Deb.
So can I address the virtual stuff too? Do you want us to address both of those?
Well, I was interested in because you talked about
sustainability.
Things you talked about since those were your issues.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be just career.
All right. So I think one of the things I know SLA has been trying to do is to sort of, we hear it called broadening the tent. You know, thinking about what other information professionals are out there that maybe don't have a master's in library science. How can we bring them in? And I also belong to AIIM, which is the Enterprise Content Management part of my life. And it's interesting because I see so many people there who could be members of SLA who would find a home with us. And I think that's part of the sustainability, is seeking out who else has the same kind of goal, making information available to our users, our clients, whoever those users or clients may be, and making it so that it's valuable enough so that we're valued as well as the intermediaries for that. And we need to continue to increase our skill set. Once we've got a degree, we all know that lifelong learning is the way to go. We need to continue to learn and to grow. And I think the sustainable models that we're seeing, Click You now is shifting over to these $49 webinars, which are affordable, I think, to just about anybody. They're great topics. If you pay for it, you can see the replays, I think, for up to 6 months. And I think that's something that we really need to look at, is how do we provide for our members an opportunity to grow the skill sets that they need to continue to grow and to continue to be employable, but at a price that's affordable, that doesn't require coming an early day to the conference, that sort of thing. I think that's one thing that SLA can do. And then another thing is hearing the members. What we're hearing, we've been communicating a lot with headquarters because we're hearing a lot of, not complaints, but really suggestions, like about membership, that it's hard for membership chairs to find out who their new members are, that sort of thing. And what's the deal with when we switched from the old membership system to the new, a lot of data was lost. Like David and I both were saying, well, gosh, our original membership date wasn't even right. And we had written in our bios, and we're going, well, the website says one thing, and our bios say another. We want to make sure that people don't think we're fibbing about when we really joined SLA. And so there's things like that I think SLA needs to really look at. And the website's another issue. It's so disorganized. I used to be a web project manager at the Exploratorium and did a lot of user interface, and that's been one of the things I've kind of been banging my head against the wall about. But Gail Cengage, because Stephen Abram has a good connection with SLA, they're going to be redesigning the website for SLA. Not sure when that's happening. They're doing it for free, but it's being worked on now. So I think there's some things coming down the pike. But I think that hearing what members' concerns are and reacting a little quicker to those, I think there's been some dragging of the feet, and I know some of it is because there's been a downturn or downsizing of staff at SLA. But I also believe we need to, Cindy Romaine says we need to optimize what we're doing and look at the things we are doing and the things that don't need to be done. Just like in our jobs, we don't do them anymore. We move on to the stuff that's really the meat of what we need to do to make us sustainable as a profession and as an association.
So, creating a more robust and sort of coordinated virtual presence. As an example, Deb and I have done 2-3 podcasts. We've created videos. We've answered questions from other units. And this information, which might be useful to you as members in making your decisions, is nowhere. It's everywhere, but nowhere. Mm-hmm. And SLA, in terms of all of the virtual programming that goes on at the unit level, needs to put it all someplace so that we can see what all is going on. Now, if it's only for a particular unit, fine. But having it all in one central location, and maybe this will happen with the new website, and maybe not, but it does sort of speak to the decentralization of the association. Having it all in one place is a great marketing tool because you can see what Pharma's doing, or you can see what Southern California's doing, and potential members could take advantage of it as well as existing members. So that's where I go for the coordinated sort of virtual presence, and also look at ways in which the conference might be more than just a handful of programs that are virtual. Look at ways in which this can be done. We wouldn't be the first association moving in this direction. I'm sure others have done it, and we could potentially learn from them. Gosh, and there was another bit that I just went out of my head. But, you know, all of these bits and pieces that the units have going, we could all benefit from them, but we just need to know. We can't be expected to go from one division to a chapter to another one, just sort of farming them out. I mean, we can set up RSS feeds and whatnot, but it would be much easier to just sort of have a one-stop shopping, so to speak. And I had also put a more robust, and now SLA has gone to GoToMeeting. So that's a very nice feature that we're just trying to experiment. We utilized it for Pharma? No,
we did a combined LMD, legal, and baseball caucus webinar, and then we're going to be doing Illinois next North week. Carolina, and Ohio.
And there are some kinks that need to be worked out, but that's great that they're going with an established off-the-shelf product. So.
Okay, thank you. And I have a question that concerns me as the president of DCSLA, and that is, or that I've certainly been thinking about. SLA is really a dispersed organization among our divisions and then the chapters. And the chapters really are the face of SLA on the ground, and money comes to the divisions and to the chapters from the membership back out to us so that we can do a lot of SLA's work. But how do we, there seems to me to be a sense that among maybe chapters more than the divisions, that we are something separate from SLA.
Like there's SLA
and then
everybody
chapter
else.
Something separate. And I got the sense a great deal during the alignment project when there was a kind of an us against them sense that I was picking up. How do we, and I think you were touching on this, David, how do we weave us together into a really cohesive organization and develop the relationships that I think we should be developing so that we all function as a single organization?
Sure. I don't necessarily have an answer to that, but yeah, it's the nature of the association as it is right now. But it could be that virtual tools would help the networking among the unit leaders better. I also think that a certain amount of the communications that goes on between the board and the unit leaders and the members could be much more clear, as opposed to, and Deb and I, we sit in on executive board meetings, but only to a certain extent. Whenever the meaty stuff is discussed, that goes into executive session. But being a little more clear as to what is going on at that level, what's being discussed, and not letting it filter down to the member level over a period of weeks or months would help a lot. And I think, there's the whole thing about loyalty right now, and Southern California is one of those chapters in the Loyalty Project. People, I think, if they feel as if they're not, if they feel as if they have a voice in decisions, or at least can be a part of it, will be much more loyal, I think, to an association. But no clear-cut solution, yes, this is what I do.
I agree, and I think you mentioned the Alignment Project, and I was on the board then when that was happening. And one of the things that I think there was some push and pull on that, because the board had kind of lived it for a long time before that was rolled out. And my feeling was we needed to roll it out longer to the members so that they got as comfortable with it as the board was. And that's been the hard part. Sometimes when the board feels it needs to push things through because we have these deadlines or we have these things. We had a contract, with a firm. And how do we balance that, the transparency of what's happening with the board so that the members feel they're part of that decision-making process. And it kind of makes me think of, the chapters and headquarters, and then you've got the board, so you've kind of got this triumvirate. And I've been a chapter president, you've been a chapter president, so we know, we've been on both sides of that. And it's hard because we're kind of focused in on where we are and the things that we do, and yet the association's trying to look at the big picture. And when at conference, we were both asked to meet with the Australia-New Zealand chapter board, which was really interesting, and to get their insights from the other side of the world and some of the things that they feel that we're not thinking internationally enough. And they had really good points. A simple thing was that we might say, this is going to happen in the spring. Well, it's not the spring in the Southern Hemisphere. We need to think about very simple things like that could change. And we've made a lot of suggestions to headquarters. And so I think that SLA needs to think more in terms of that, because we say we're international, but we tend to be very North America-centric. So how, and that's what we would love to get more feedback from the members on that. And I'd like to see more feedback from the international members. And they gave us a lot of good ideas about how could they be more part of this group, because they feel like they're this chapter way on the other side of the world, and here you are in the same town almost. I mean, the headquarters is in Alexandria, and feeling that distance. So I'm not quite sure, but I think the transparency thing, so that we feel that leadership is on the same page. Obviously, the board has to deal with things first, but then rolling it out for more discussion among the membership and the leaders of the chapters.
Thank you. We had two questions from people who, and I actually want to make sure everybody has a chance to ask questions, and I'm not hiding it. I could ask you. I have more than what I wrote down. I want to make sure everybody has a chance, but I need to ask the two questions that we were asked.
Absolutely.
And one concerns membership, and one concerns continuing education, and they're a little non-traditional questions. One comes actually from somebody who's not a member of SLA, but who's on our list and comes to our programs, which I think is
recruit this person.
Exactly. But his question was, why must he belong to SLA and not? Why is he able to belong at the chapter level? He wanted specifically to have that. But yeah, and so I thought that would be a good question for you all to.
That's a really good question. Actually, we were talking about that coming in. A few of my friends over there that came up the stairs with me, and I thought, gosh, I haven't thought of that, because I don't belong to MLA anymore, but I belong to the Northern California Nevada Medical Libraries Group, and I don't know why that is, but probably part of it's tradition. But I also think that there's having belonged both to CLA, California Library Association, and this Northern California Nevada Medical Libraries Group, I do feel very disconnected because I don't know anything about what's happening with MLA as a whole, Medical Library Association, unless it's in the local newsletter where they'll sometimes write things. It's very much focused locally. And I prefer, of course, MLA is pretty much U.S.-centric, as is AALL. I mean, SLA is really kind of an ALA also, obviously. But I think that SLA is a different model in the sense that we are international, or striving to be more international, and that having a centralized place where decision-making happens, kind of, anarchy does happen in the units, let's face it, and that's okay, because that's where a lot of creative stuff comes out of. But I think there needs to be a touch point, or a place that is not the seat of power, that's not what I'm thinking of, but kind of the central place where everybody can come together, not physically, but decision making with ideas, and also the sharing, because what I see is NCNMLG, they do coordinate every year with the Southern California SC, it's Southern California and Arizona Medical Libraries Group. They have a conference every year. They trade off who's hosting that. But it's very disconnected from MLA, and it's not doing very well. They've had really low attendance. And I'm not sure without that support of MLA how they're going to continue and if they're going to continue. And yet, and some chapters, of course, like D.C., San Francisco, Southern California, they have a large membership, are more sustainable. But if you go to Oklahoma, where they have like 32 members, or some of the other chapters where there's a very small membership, they are struggling just to survive even with the support of headquarters. And I think they would go away, to be honest with you. So we're kind of all in this together.
One particular response to why join SLA as opposed to why I can't just join a local chapter is the membership directory. As bad as it is to deal with as a membership chair, it still is what other associations do not give. And that membership directory opens up the diversity of our membership, so that if I'm curious about a particular field, no one in Southern California is dealing with it, I feel confident enough to go into the membership directory and locate a variety of people, and I will cold call them, because it's not really cold calling. SLA is part of that network, or SLA has formed that network for me. Whether or not I've ever met these people, that's one of the best things about being a candidate. I get to talk to people all the time about anything I want. Whether or not they vote is a whole other thing. But it's that membership directory. I mean, that's the richness, I think, of SLA. It's the people. It really is. And the diversity of it. So we're all over the place.
The second question does come from a member and somebody who has been unemployed as well for a while. And she wanted to know if SLA might consider creating something like a vendor product sandbox. And she didn't put it that way, but where SLA might broker with the vendors to get members, particularly unemployed members, training on vendor products.
Well, I think,
Great idea.
The vendors would say, yeah. Yeah, but the vendors don't tend to want to do that, right?
Well, actually, her question was, would you all see SLA and your role as having that kind of power, I guess, to try to put something together?
I think, let's see, you're first this time. Sorry.
Well, there's one of the chapters, I think Minnesota is having a vendor day, where people will go and sort of sample products and see what the vendors have to offer. Now that's driven by the vendors, essentially. But creating this sort of sandbox is equivalent to what we do in our program at UCLA. When I'm talking to vendors. Whenever I go to the conference, I go into the exhibition hall and I talk to people. Unfortunately, they're happy to see me, but all I'm doing is thanking them for giving us complimentary access. We don't really pay for a whole lot. And I pitch it to them because if our students can play around with their software in a class with their resources or whatnot, then this is knowledge that they take with them when they become professionals. And we do it with Dialogue, we're doing it with Cyberscopus, we do it with other products as well. I'd have to sort of let it percolate a little while in my head, but I don't, see why this couldn't be done if vendors were willing and, members were also willing to do something like this.
Well, I know some of the vendors already, if you get a password and a username, you can sign up for an account that's free. You can do all the training. It doesn't cost you anything to be able to do that. So that would be the first thing I would encourage members to do. But I think it's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. We've got vendors in the room.
Right.
But it's an interesting thought. I also belong to AIP, so I have access to vendors through that, which has been a membership perk for me. But it's an interesting thing about SLA. I don't think it would cost SLA very much.
And whether you could have a role in brokering this.
Yeah.
Two of the things that were mentioned, because we have another vendor here, was Millennium, getting training on Millennium, without having purchased a
Yeah.
product, and the other was OCLC because Cappoli was here and is no longer, you can no longer get the courses.
Right.
So, but how do you maintain your skills if you're unemployed for a period of time? I think is the big question. And could SLA do more? Would you consider doing more to try to help?
Well, and I think
stay
the
up
other
there?
thing, too, that members need to do, I mean, we do research. We're trained in doing research. There are a lot of great free resources or very inexpensive ones out there. Lynda.com, Lynda. I had a friend who had emailed me because she knows I do enterprise content management consulting, and she says, I need to get up to speed like this on SharePoint. What can you share? So she went to lynda.com and bought a 1-month subscription, I think, for $27. And she did an 8-hour online course. She said it was great. Okay, here's
Well, if you are an SLA member, you have access to atomiclearning.com.
Well, that's right. That's on
which
the
has
Innovation
all those
Lab.
tutorials
Yes.
in like 1 to 3 minute tutorials on the different levels of Office or
Right.
Adobe or whatever.
Yeah, we're talking about, I think,
You're talking
Well,
about very specific.
Lynda's more expensive.
Right. But $27 a month, most of us could do a lot of learning in
But
1
if you're
month.
already an SLA member,
and this is something I think within GCSLA, because we're putting together a kind of an unemployment support portal, is how do you pull together where all of these training resources, a place where you can find many of the training resources, rather than leaving it up to the individual. Can we do that? Can we aggregate it?
Well, what I encourage you to do, rather than siloing this into just the DCSLA, is put this out to the leadership listserv and see what other chapters and units are already doing. And this could be a one-stop shop on the SLA website, the new site, because rather than thinking, well, we got to go, not that I want to take any glory as your guys' idea, but other units may already be doing this, and rather than duplicate this effort, other units may say, oh, well, we already have this in place, and we have this, so could we have a central place where it would be an SLA member benefit that they could go to? I think that's a great idea, another selling point for SLA.
Here's where you can get for free or pay for, which is what we're thinking.
Right.
We're trying to pull together now as well. I would love to see, and I would put this on the leadership list, an idea database for SLA. There is.
We were just talking about that this afternoon. Susan Pfeiffer-Camby, when she was chapter cabinet. Couldn't get that word. Thank you, chapter cabinet chair. And Anne actually suggested the idea, and then she implemented it, and it is on the wiki. There's an idea bank.
I know, but it doesn't get used.
But it's got great information there. So how would you suggest, what would you have as a tool to get used?
It's not a very user-friendly, and I would suggest something that would be open to the membership. And that is simpler to use and more along the lines of what organizations are implementing to gather ideas together. I would love to see us begin to do that, because, as you say, it is one way to bring everyone together and feel like we are working in this together, and also to gather ideas out there that are hard for us to hook into.
Well, I had suggested to Susan, I don't know who's heading that up now, that we make it into a website instead of just a wiki.
And I think the wiki was a great place to start. We did the communities of practice.
Right.
That's wonderful too. I think all of these are steps
But there's
that
too
we're
many of
taking.
them, too.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would love to see
Consolidate.
something. Yeah.
Would you send us an email?
Yeah.
So we can remember that, because we get a lot of that. Usually I'm taking notes, but I wanted to say one other thing about the person who had a question about not being a member. We're having on the 18th next week in the San Francisco chapter, Scott Brown's coming to do a Web 2.0 presentation. And when I saw the flyer, I was floored, because non-members only have to pay $5 more to come. And so I know the president, she's one of my best friends, and I said, Cindy, what were you thinking? $5 more? We should have charged $20 more. How do we get members, or how do we get people? If they only have to come for $5 and they only can pick the best stuff, that's not good. So we need to work on that too, I think, as units, is how do we, here's a member benefit. You're a member, you pay this rate. You're not a member, you don't pay this much difference. You pay this much difference. Or if it's your first time, that's great. If it's your first time, maybe you get a little discount. But after that, you make it so it's attractive for them to join.
And we do that. Well, we're also looking at all of those things we can do to
Good. Well, you guys are pioneers, too. I think this chapter does a lot of pioneering, and that's why I suggested that the employment thing is a great idea, but do it in coordination with other units so that you're not doing all the work, and find out what other people already have as far as resources go. Yes.
Okay, first I will preface this by saying I am not an SLA member. I'm an MLA member, but I have enjoyed the listserv for DCLA, and I was at SLA in Washington, D.C. a couple years ago because obviously MLA was in Hawaii, and I can't do it. So I had no choice but to be here. So
No choice.
I enjoyed it. I also went to the national meeting. I don't know what year that was. I think that was 04. That was a really good meeting. I had a couple of questions. One, you talked about the internationalness of SLA. We used to have the International Information Librarians Day that was celebrated dead smack in the middle of Library Week. When I was a pharmaceutical librarian, I would send promotional items and stuff to our branches in Australia and England for that day, and then it disappeared. And SLA said, or ALA said it was an SLA thing. And it was. So that made no sense to me if you are trying to level internationally. The other thing that I wanted to mention, I did enjoy the I said the DC meeting. Other things that have to do with. Oh, you said regional meetings. I was an exhibitor for the National Library of Medicine for almost 10 years. So I had done SARC. And I haven't seen SARC show up since SARC is
South Atlantic
Regional
Conference of the Special Library Association. So when SLA is on the West Coast, the Southern Atlantic chapters got together and would have their own regional meeting. Last one I remember was in Colonial Williamsburg.
That's right.
And I thought it was a good meeting, but I wasn't an attendee. I wasn't an attendee. I was an exhibitor. I thought it was a perfectly fine meeting, and it just dropped off the planet also.
Now that's just, well, Sharon, you had a thought about International Special Librarians Day?
I'm Sharon Lenius, and I wanted to let you know that I inquired what happened to International Special Libraries Day, and they said it's too expensive to staff, time consuming, and I wanted to let you know that the military librarians still celebrate that and have a big dinner, and they invite all the military library staffs in this area, and we have a big dinner on that day, and it's International Special Libraries Day.
So MLD needs to lead the charge here to direct it association-wide, though.
Well, and I thought it was a perfect example of an opportunity for marketing your library. My goodness.
That's what I used to use
they had very good graphics. They had things that you could buy as bookmarks or pins or something like that. It was just a wonderful opportunity.
Following on that, for the Special Libraries Day, our chapter in D.C. got the former librarian of the Alexandria Library from Egypt.
Oh, my God.
And it was the most incredible presentation, the most wonderful learning opportunity for all of us. But we were only like 10 people. And I thought that...
They were all at the Military Librarians Division dinner.
It was dinner,
Yes, you did. And I think that is a wonderful opportunity. Perhaps we could really organize it widely. That woman is Egyptian American. What's her name? I don't remember.
I've read
but
something about her.
She's one state librarian now. I don't remember. And she's just an incredible resource. We can learn a lot from her. But we will celebrate that day. It's just very low profile.
Yeah. Now, you also had a remark about regional conferences. Now, while they can be appealing because they're not as long as a regular conference, travel costs would be lower. They also, though, I will fully admit, require a heck of a lot of planning. That's an option, but it also, again, at the unit level, likely, requires a heck of a lot of planning. We've talked about trying to do one out in Southern California, bringing together all the California chapters. Well, we still talk about it. We haven't done it yet. But it's, again, something maybe we could look at as a viable alternative.
About the best thing we've done is the West Coast reception at SLA every year. We're all West Coast chapters get together, and even that gets rotated among the chapters, and there are quite a few chapters that are involved in that, and it's still a lot of work to make sure it gets done.
the other thing was is like for the continuing education, it seems that there's some weirdness with SLA where you don't know if it's accredited continuing education.
It's not, well, they don't have an accreditation program like MLA does.
And that drives me insane because you want to take something, but if I can't put it on my CV that I took an accredited continuing education, there's no point in me even wasting my time.
Because that accreditation matters.
Because it does matter, especially if you're in academia, and also, well, because I've been 20 years in the medical library field, and I mean, even lyricists, their stuff is accredited. Because I made sure, I asked them, I said, is this accredited before I take this class? And they said, yes, it is. I'm like, what do medical librarians always ask that? I'm like,
well, that's because MLA has a certification program, though, too, right? Yes.
Yeah, I haven't never made that, so I don't care about that. It's just that when it goes on the CV, if somebody asks me at the university, what does this mean? And was it approved by someone? I don't want just a little piece of paper that said I attended something. I want it to say because we work in, obviously, in medical, you have to mimic what the doctors and the nurses do, and they do continuing education units. I need to know I completed so many numbers.
X number CEU or something, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that. I have a feeling that with all the budget crunches and stuff right now that's not something that's going to happen, because I've worked on other accrediting for continuing ed courses, and it's a huge process, and it's an expensive process and a long process to go through. And I don't know that SLA is going to put that in a hopper at this point, but it's a good idea.
I have a question. There are a few national digital initiatives to digitize collections. Public libraries, academic libraries, public media archives even. And being here at NPR, and Laura Surubaba, the senior librarian at NPR, digitization consumes our lives. We're 17 librarians, 10 of which are members of the SLA. And I wonder to what extent the SLA could have a role in that. Because I think we need some help. That the Library of Congress has an initiative, an alliance, the DPLA, Digital Public Libraries, they also have something huge. They are on the media all the time. Their profiles is growing, is being elevated as we speak. But I don't see the SLA there promoting digitization. Right? We are special libraries. We don't have the same regular budget as a public library. Well, so we don't. Our life is very, we are more vulnerable than anybody else. We can disappear like this, and yet our collection needs to be digitized, I hope. But yet, I feel that we are alone. So I think, I don't know how you feel about that. Would you consider like having some role in that? I remember in the 80s when we first started like the value of the corporate librarian, SLA provided me and my colleagues with the right language, with the value, right? So we can talk to our managers and say, I'm valuable for you because you provided me with that language. So now I find that I don't have anyone to provide me with that support. And yet our lives, our subsistence, our collections depend on how articulate I am in explain I need to digitize. What are the standards? What is the process? Somewhere, I don't know. I can't even, I am a broadcast librarian, so we don't even, we are very few of us, so it's just more complicated. So that's...
Yet even though you're a broadcast librarian, you're still with others who need to digitize their own records in whatever format they exist.
Yeah, in any format. Right.
What would you want from SLA to, in terms of guidance or support, or like have some sort of, and now I'm thinking of the Future Ready toolkit that exists, something that would be for managing digital assets.
That is a presence. For example, I always, when I wanted to do a job description, I would take the SLA, the competencies, and I would say, this, according to the SLA, this is what it is, and I have it. These are the standards. So can you work with ALA, with the DPLA, I don't know, just to be part of that framework of activity?
Yeah, that's, I
We
mean...
need a liaison is what we need.
Well, I was just going to ask you if you would be willing to head that up. I'm serious. I mean, somebody needs to take the initiative. It doesn't always need to come from headquarters. And I actually did a huge digital asset management project for the Exploratorium because it's been in existence not as long as NPR, but 40 years. And, you know, we had just, 30,000 slides and 20,000 of this. And it was a big initiative. And actually, there are associations that already exist that have this information. And I don't know, even though SLA wants to broaden its tent, I don't know that we need to duplicate stuff that's already out there. I'm thinking Dublin Core for document management, content management, digitization. There are other possibilities. And I think what would be great if there was somebody like you that understood the need that could say, well, here's a resource kit, just like the Future Ready Toolkit that's for this, and here's the resources you can go to. We wouldn't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. I'm all for not reinventing the wheel when resources already exist. So, and I'm not trying to deflect your question, but I think it's really important for us to think about what's already out there instead of SLA creating something that already is out there. So we can talk more about it.
I like
Stephanie.
a comment to Laura's, which is the Society of American Archivists, I think, would be a great partner with SLA because they're the ones who set standards in national and the Library of Congress and also National Archives and
ARMA,
Records Administration.
But you see, we are members of that. Some of my staff are members of that. Some are members of the IASA. Some are members of AMIR.
But what I'm saying is I think that if there could be some kind of interconnection, some coordination between these different groups and come up with some kind of, I don't know, a new division or something within SLA or some kind of really major program, educational.
Now remember, the taxonomy division is our newest division, and that was not created by SLA, but that was created from members who said we need a taxonomy division. It's growing very fast, and there is a process to start a division, and that really does need to come from the members. SLA will certainly support that, but that's something that the members need to say, hey, we need this. Let's go ahead with it. That's what we have to remember that headquarters now has 26 members for 26 staff? Yeah.
I think less now. 40% less than that.
No, it used to be 30-something. I think it's at 18. Okay. And we've got about 9,500 members, so we need to pull our weight, too. And I think that's the great thing about SLA is the opportunity to participate and to make things happen and to work in conjunction with headquarters, but not to say, okay, here you go. We need you to do this. We need to say, okay, well, we think this is a need. Let's start thinking about creating a division, which I think is a great idea, a digital asset management division or some sort of division like that. So that's a wonderful idea. Because, again, this AIIM, I think we could pull members from an association like that are looking for a place to go. Because they have a lot of free membership. So they claim they have 90,000 members, but you don't have to pay anything for that membership. They have about, I think, 4,000 or 5,000 that pay. So I think that's a good idea.
DCSLA is going to be part of the loyalty project, and that is with a number of other chapters. I think there are 5 of us total, and we're working with a consultant who is going to loyalty to me is almost a misnomer for this because it's how do we increase our membership and increase membership benefits? How do we develop our relationship with our members and non-members. But one of the things that the consultant, James Kane, who told us he's going to be looking at us with, and specifically with DCSLA, is how we partner with other organizations to further our objectives. And how do we piggyback with them even? So I think this is just for me personally, hearing this, it's interesting because we're going to be talking about what other organizations we want to be allied with or that we want to try to work more closely with. And as you mentioned, the society. So what you both mentioned. Right.
Right.
Hi.
You mentioned that SLA had about 9,500 members, and I can remember when it was like 13,000, so you can see how much it has declined. Can you all give us some examples or ideas that you all may have to attract more members and to keep them, and especially members who may be younger?
Well, I had, David's heard this already, but I had lunch a few weeks ago with Sandy Hirsch, who's the director of the library school at San Jose State. And they have 2,500 students, as you know, and they give them all a free SLA or ALA membership. So I've challenged her to think about letting them choose between SLA and ALA. And the other thing is I connected to somebody else at the library school there who does all the distance stuff and is over that in the listserv with Paula Diaz, or membership chair or membership staff member at SLA, because they have a new script now where our chapters will be able to send an email to the San Jose State listserv, because we don't know where all those students live. About 30% of them are in Northern California, but that leaves 70% for all the other chapters to talk to them. And so there's a way now that chapters can send an email to this listserv, and the listserv is smart enough to look at the zip code where the event is happening and then send out an email to any student at San Jose State who's within like a 50-mile, 100-mile radius of where that event is taking place. So we're hoping that will begin to draw in new members. And then Bill Fisher has been asked to find, they have not had an SLA student chapter at San Jose State for many years. And so we thought we'd start with one of the bigger schools and then hopefully really start to grow this out to the different library schools and I schools to bring them in. I just feel we need to do something concrete, because that's the thing I hear the most, especially at leadership, is how do we as a chapter find out who lives in our chapter boundaries when they're in a distance program? We have no idea. Do they live here, or do they live across the country, or do they live in England? We don't know. And so I think, that's one of the things to start. They just had that conversation this week. I haven't heard the results of how we're going to implement that, but that should be going out to the leadership listserv pretty soon.
Well, I think we need to do a much better job in collecting information for students, at the very least on our website, because there's no one place for students to go to find out what stipends are being offered from the various units, what scholarships may be available, what other opportunities there may be, say, for internships and such. And I've chatted with Tamika Barnes, who heads up the SLAAC, Student Activities Whatever Committee, and that needs to be done. If we're gonna grab hold of students, and it's very important to grab hold of students, we need to show them what the value is. Mm-hmm. At the very least, now. At UCLA, we've got a very highly visible chapter.
Yes, we do.
But it's not the case elsewhere. Talking about San Jose, and they're only online. So what can we do to grab these students? Having some sort of coordinated presence on the web with resources that the students can use would be really, really valuable. And then connecting with them as they graduate as well as new information professionals. I hate to use the word bridge over and over again, but that's what it is. We've got to be that bridge from students to professionals.
Can I add something to that? I don't know if your question's related, but I'm on the Professional Development Advisory Council, and we are getting ready. We're working on redoing the competencies, because they're about 5 or 6 years old now. Yeah. And we had the committee chair and I and Carolyn Sosnowski, who's our liaison at SLA headquarters, had a conversation with a couple of faculty members last week or the week before last about how we can, what we're hearing from faculty members in I schools and library schools is there are no ALA, they have to be they're ALA accredited, so there's competencies, there's student learning outcomes they have to meet that have to be public libraries and school libraries, but there are none for special libraries. So that's part of what we're going to be doing, is working to make some scenarios as part of the competencies that faculty can use as part of their student learning outcomes, which they're required to do. I know in California you have to have student learning outcomes for whatever you're teaching, so that those become part of the curriculum. And so then they can justify better that they're teaching about special libraries, because in many states. Oklahoma is an example. They have Eastern Oklahoma University, I think it is, has a library school, but they basically only teach school librarianship and public librarianship. They sort of deny that special libraries exist. So we're working to try and overcome that so that faculty can now teach to that. So that's one thing we're trying to do as well. I'm sorry. So, okay, questions?
It's good to have a little more time, and I'm not sure my thoughts are entirely formulated. My name is Carolyn Champa. I'm a new MLIS as of 2009, so I still consider that new, slightly branched. And I'm in a non-traditional library. I'm not a librarian. I had an MLIS, but I work for the Army CIA Logistics in a career internship program where my job right now is to learn. Mm-hmm. And I remember being a student, and I imagine, some of us aren't too far out. It doesn't matter what age you are. Yeah. That's one thing I love about library school is, you can be a mom who's raised 3 kids and you're in library school. So there's no one library student. And my concern in some of these ideas about how to reach out to students is that I don't have a sense that we're asking them what they need.
Okay.
And from remembering library school, there were some people who read such complicated lines. And I know all of us do, and we're all choosing to be here on a Tuesday night, and I get it. But I think that needs to be considered in the loyalty project. I think that needs to be considered before anything is rolled out, before the website is redesigned. We have to sort of leverage that groundswell of free labor. But, let's be honest, they're students, so they're willing. A lot of them would be willing to do a lot of these projects, do the work. And so it's almost a communications issue of getting them to have a voice and to be heard and engaged. Your bridging metaphor is very appropriate. And almost give it to them, or even with the unemployment thing. Find somebody who's unemployed and say, take this as your project. We'll offer support and advice and guidance, but don't look to someone else to do it. Look to yourself with tools and do it. Amy is a wonderful example of that. She and another new federal librarian has so single-handedly built a new working group with the Federal Library and Information Committee. We're the new feds. And it's just, we met for lunch. And the two of them ran with it and got me to build a baby website. So they're encouraging us to be excited and engaged. And it just took 2 of them to say, let's make this happen.
I agree.
And you don't know who those people are. So asking them, who are you? And inviting that conversation, I think, is very important right now.
Can I add something that's, after that very articulate speech, I have something that's very sort of mundane, but one of my biggest concerns is just the cost.
Yeah.
I've gone from, I was originally an SLA member 20 years ago, but I was a corporate librarian, and the corporate world paid for me. And I've gone into academia, I've become an ALA member, and now I'm a federal librarian, and it's all on my own dime. And I went to ALA this year. I've not been back to SLA for as much as I would like to because it is so much more expensive.
Even
everything about it.
Everything
about SLA is more expensive. And I'm very, very frustrated by that.
Well, I can tell you
and I have a job.
I can tell you that the AIIM conference I went, there's $13.95 to attend their conference. What? That includes no meals or anything. And so most SLA, I think, is still a good deal. And I, being a consultant, pay my own way. Nobody's paying for me to go. But I feel, to me, it is my big continuing education push every year. I put aside, I think of it, we use this at AIP because a lot of people are all those members pretty much are self-employed. Miriam Blake says a mantra. She's okay, every week, as soon as the conference is over, start putting $20 in an envelope. And every week you do that until the next conference, and you'll either have most of it paid for or a huge chunk of it paid for, and it's a lot less painful to do it that way. And I just feel personally it's an investment in myself. And I can tell you that for every member of SLA, and we have many at the $40 membership level, it costs between $400 and $500 to service every member. And many are paying $40 a month, and at most, or not a month, I'm sorry, a year, up to $200. I think that's the maximum. So we are being subsidized in many ways. And I understand your pain and what you're saying, but the truth of the matter is that's what it costs to run a conference and for us to attend.
But I don't understand how ALA does it so much.
Well, they also have a lot more members. Think about
huge
that.
exhibit hall.
Yeah, their exhibit.
But remember to add on the
all the different divisions.
Right.
That's right.
Well, I also want to speak to that in that the continuing education workshops that I oversee at UCLA, I have found since the economic downturn that I still get academic, I still get public. And these are people who generally pay out of their own pocket. And in the sense of public, even have to take days off. On the other hand, and this is not being accusatory or anything, people from our group, corporate, whatnot, who have traditionally had it paid for them, aren't coming. Because that's a tradition that's very hard to break, because they will say, they will pitch it to the powers that be within the organization and say, I'd like to go. Oh, there's no money. Okay, then I won't go. As opposed to doing what Deb just suggested, sort of investing in themselves. And I'm finding that hard to wrestle with. I get a lot of academics, a lot of public librarians, school librarians even. I mean, my workshops are across the board. But it's on the corporate side where it's the big challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's choices.
It is.
I pay for going to other conferences. It's just that when you have to make those choices, you can't go to all of them.
Right. And this is something, though, that SLA needs to confront and figure out what it's going to do. Because
people feel entitled.
I hate to use the word entitlement, but, there is that. Yeah.
I disagree with you that you said it's an investment. It is an investment in my career. But that was good when I was 25, when I was 40. But then later, especially in the digital age, I can find other resources. I am a member, but I'm just being the devil's advocate because of the numbers. You said now is how many? 88,000 compared to
9,500.
Yeah. Okay.
But we're not the only association who's experiencing a downturn in ALA and everybody else.
It's expensive. There is no way around it. It is expensive. I know because we attend the other conferences in audio archives, and just totally like this. So I think we need to revise that and do the conference in a more modest way instead of... I totally understand it's a difficult issue, but I think the numbers are going to be down and down and down.
That may be the case where, and that's why it needs to be looked at very seriously, because the majority of the revenue that runs the association comes from the annual conference, from registrations, but even more so from vendor participation. And if one goes down, the other might go down. And you get into a nasty little spiral there. It would probably help to look at how other associations are doing it. My wife also belongs to the AALL and the Law Librarians Association, and she's seen that conference come about from being really kind of useless a number of years ago to being a pretty good conference. And they shaved, I believe, an entire day off that conference to make it work better. And they're also integrating the vendors a little more into the programs. But I don't know, it all needs to be looked at.
Well, there is, the board is going through a strategic visioning process, and I think that's one of the things on the table is looking at how that's going to happen. We'll see what comes out of that. And I agree with you that the conference probably does need to be shortened a bit because, it is costly to fly in and have a hotel for extra nights or whatever it is. But again, I think I still go because I still get value out of it, and I get more frustration sometimes when there are too many sessions at the same time, and I want to be at all of them, but luckily we can look at PowerPoints, which isn't the same as being there, but it's also a networking opportunity. Most of my work, my consulting work, comes from networking. I think in the last 5 years, only one job has come because somebody found me on the AIP website. And so for me, it's a valuable networking opportunity, and we don't know that we might get a pink slip handed to us next week. We need to keep our network alive. Coming to these meetings is important, but also going to the international annual meeting is important too. And that's why I believe it's an investment in us, whether we're employed by somebody else or self-employed.
A couple things.
Sorry.
Somebody made a comment earlier about ClickU programs now costing, $29, I think?
Yeah.
That's the first I've heard of that. And when I'm getting emails from our vendors such as Dialogue and ProQuest and James and IAS, Global Insights, for webinars for free,
Well, okay, but remember, they're selling you a product, and usually it's their people that are presenting.
Mm-hmm.
When SLA has it, it's a member. Any of us can propose a ClickU webinar, and we will get paid for it. Mm-hmm. So do you want to do it for free is what it comes down to, and you expect your colleagues to do it for free. Remember, our value is great, and we need to start recognizing that we need to be paid for what we know and what we can share with others. And if you're a vendor, and then you're trying to sell a product, so usually you'll do your webinars for free. I attend plenty. Sorry, Liz.
No, I was going to say that the DC chapter has been paying for that for the membership, and we host it at a place like NPR or something.
Right.
And Dow Jones has been kind enough to sponsor those for us this year. And hold it at their space in their offices on Connecticut Avenue.
I thought that was a change, Lois. I'm glad to hear you say that. The other thing is about the conferences. I didn't go to SLA this year. I didn't even read the material because I knew I just wasn't going to be able to get away to do it. But somebody made, Dave, about having to get Colin Powell a couple of years ago in your shorts T-shirt. Do we really need to pay the price of Colin Powell, or in the case of ALA, I think 1 year in the last couple of years it was Julie Andrews? I mean, what do they really have to say to us that's worth probably the $25,000 that we're paying them?
Right. Having a big name, having a big name, which would be a draw, has to then be weighed against the cost of having that big name. And I agree.
And Thomas Friedman this year gave a great talk that really talked about things that are important to us as a profession that we need to recognize. We can't be average anymore because everybody's average. We need to stand out in the crowd if we want to be sustainable in what we do.
We've had Tom Friedman speak locally, too.
That's great.
A very worthwhile presentation, but not everybody is Tom Friedman.
Well, the other thing, too, is for $100, anybody can register for the virtual conference. You get the keynotes and all the spotlight sessions, and you can watch them for up to 6 months after. I know a lot of people have firewall issues at their places of work, and they can't see them streamed live, but you can do it on the weekend or in the evenings. And I've talked to quite a few people who actually go to the conference in person, but they also pay the $100 because for them, they aren't so stressed about not being able to get to a session they really would like to see, and they want to be able to view it maybe more than once down the road. So that's another option for us to think about. For $100, we can invest in ourselves and see a lot of the really meaty stuff that happens at the annual conference.
Yeah, Hannah and Rachel and Ann. Unless you had a follow-up.
On to your point, just so we think about this factually, the vendors pay for the keynote speakers. It does not come from the
true. Thank you for that.
It's paid for them 100%. And the fee for Colin Powell was $85,000.
I guess it was a good thing he didn't get elected president. He probably makes more speaking.
That, and would they pay for something else?
No, we would not. My budget did this. Something else. Because I think the attraction of a speaker of that level is that it elevates the discussion.
Yeah.
It allows us to hear things that we would not hear otherwise, and to talk about and consider issues from a perspective we would not have otherwise. And we spend a lot of time talking to each other and talking about people who are expert in our field. But for once, I think we also need to hear from somebody who elevates the discussion beyond that.
And doesn't it elevate, it gives us more visibility as well?
And it attracts people who will come. Al Gore is an excellent example of that. People came by the thousands to hear Al Gore who would not have come.
And it gives us some publicity as well.
Yeah. And to buy his book,
But in these tough times, the bottom line is the bottom line. If people aren't going to pay it.
But I think what Ann was saying was that SLA isn't paying.
No, but if we, the members, aren't going to pay to go to the conference or to take the webinar, then whether somebody else pays for it or not, it doesn't do us any good because we aren't there.
But don't you think you're worth $49? to go to a webinar?
Not repeatedly, no. I've gone to lots of QuickView Live sessions, and if they're free, that's terrific. But if I go to half a dozen a year, $300 for that, another $1,000 or so for the conference. I might go to ALA. I might want to go to computers and libraries. And my agency will only pay for a little bit of that.
Well, I know, because I paid for all of it. So, but I guess, I always come back to what are we worth? And I think you don't have to go to all the ClickView webinars, but if there are ones that are particularly interesting or will up your skill set or strengthen it, that's what we need to look at. And that's why I think SLA is trying to do a variety of things that will help the members to do that.
Hannah, you've had your hand raised. Sorry.
So I'm Hannah Summers. I'm the treasurer of the DC chapter. And my question has to do with, I'm glad we're talking about money, but specifically about your goals for our finances for your prospective presidency. What kind of financial goals do you have in mind? That's the first part of my question. And then what are your other goals? I mean, what metrics are you going to use to judge if you're meeting your goals? Was it a successful year, etc.?
Well, I mean, I will be honest to say I have absolutely no goals right now, apart from SLA not running in the red anymore and running a profit so that it can be fed out to the units. But this is something that I think if once one of us is elected to the board and we sit in on these meetings and we have a better sense of the numbers, besides what Dan Trefethen provides to us at the conference, then we could actually maybe formulate something, but formulate it as a part of the board, not individually. I mean, I'll be totally honest in that respect.
Well, and I think the next 3 years are really critical for SLA because, we're here, we kind of, I think, have hit the bottom. We're starting to bounce back up. The revenues from the conference are better than they thought they would be. But, I mean, I know that in general terms, not specific terms. And I think that if we can continue, we've downsized, and I think downsized also in the sort of programming we're trying to offer because we can't do everything we used to do. Nobody can. And I would like to look at what other associations are doing to be sustainable and how we can learn from that instead of reinventing the wheel for that. And then what was the other thought? Okay, the budget. Boy, that was just, I have the same thing as you, out the brain. But I think really looking at how can we be sustainable and then how can we begin profitable again, so that we are running in the black at all times. And I think that's not an easy thing to do because we have to make choices. And we don't want to make choices. And I say we still want it all, and we can't have that all, and that's the hard part. But the board, I think, is moving on that with the strategic visioning they're doing, and the next 3 years are really going to be a critical period for the association and how do we go forward. And the other, as far as metrics go, I would like to see the staff of SLA provide more specifics to us, that here are some goals we had and here's how we're meeting them. Just like, we as if we're employed or I have clients, I have certain benchmarks I have to meet and here's how I'm meeting those. I would like to see more interaction on that to say, here's what we need from the association headquarters and how those metrics then are how set and then how they're being met and have a timeline for that.
And we really do need to look at all that SLA provides to us and the costs associated with it, and then decide what for the members, what is most valuable and what will continue to be valuable.
And that's a moving target because, as we know, everything's changing so quickly.
Yeah. Rachel.
And Chris.
In regards to conferences and being a grad student, I am personally investing a lot right now in my future. And I mean, in terms, I have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of money when it comes to conferences. And just involving students more, I wouldn't mind volunteering if I got to go to a conference for free. I'm going to SAA at the end of the month, and that is taking a big chunk, out of I'm working here for free over the summer, and now I'm paying for this. And so just keeping that in mind, I think, just in terms of, we do have the time, and I think a lot of people would be happy to have stuff on their resume that says that they helped out or had a position at a conference or something like that.
I thought that I don't know, Anne, I thought when the local arrangements committee sometimes has students come, they got a free one-day registration. I thought that was something already
correct.
happening.
And there are also student stipends coming from a variety of units, many, not many, but some of which are not granted because there are no applicants.
Yeah.
And you need to be assertive in looking for those opportunities.
And I know David is personally really good about sending stuff out to our listeners.
Well, yeah.
But a lot of things end up being really specific.
Right.
And I mean, like almost, and I do read everything. And like a lot of things, like I'm not a business librarian, and I'm not a specific like chemistry librarian, and so I can't apply for those. And so I am looking, but it doesn't mean, when it comes to, obviously we're a special library association, but sometimes those awards are a little too specialized to apply for.
Well, those come out of the division.
Yeah.
Right.
So in terms of like, even if I wasn't getting everything paid for, just a little something, it really does make a difference. And I do apply for stuff.
Well, look at the one-day
The
one-day free registration might be a possibility for you. Okay, Chris.
Going back to the cost of what SLA provides, I know that, a year or two ago they moved to this tiered fee structure, and they weren't passing the cost of that along to the chapters or units, and next year they will be. Is there any talk of them maybe re-examining doing the tiered structure and going back to a more traditional structure? Do you know how that's going to work out or what your view on that is?
Well, I can say when I was on the board was when we voted in the $40 a year, thinking it was going to be, because we had the Asian chapter, Asian chapter is the fastest growing chapter, and a lot of people there, even in higher management positions, earn less than $18,000 a year in places like India. Mm-hmm. So it was to encourage their membership. But then we had the downturn in 2008 where a lot of people got laid off. So all of a sudden there was all these unemployed U.S. librarians and information professionals who said, I can stay at the $40 a year level. And some of them in the past, until just recently, I don't know, Ann, when that changed, but when you got your renewal notice, it automatically was, if you were $40, maybe now you had a job making $100,000 a year, you could renew at the $40 level. Now you get, I think, at the top level, and you have to say, no, I want to renew at this level, because too many people weren't thinking about it. They just checked the box and, said, here's my credit card. And so hopefully that'll be part of a correction. But I think what happened was we hadn't foreseen the recession coming in so many U.S. librarians. And Ann, you might want to talk a little bit more about that.
What you say is essentially correct. I continue to support the tiered fee structure for the reasons that you did. We want to truly be an international association, and I passionately believe we should be. We cannot attract members globally if we do not have a lower fee structure for them. But what you say also is correct, and that is we made an error in that we just automatically renewed you at the same level you were the previous year, and that didn't factor in the reality that many people were now at a different income level, but they didn't. But we made it too difficult for you to tell us that we weren't employed or we weren't making more money. So now we've gone back to a median level, and if you want to change that, you will have to proactively do that. I think that's a correct approach for us to take.
So that just got implemented, not too long ago?
No, this year.
So it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. And, of course, the dues allotment to each unit now are going to be based on that, too. So it's up to us in our chapters to encourage our members. If you've got a job now, this is the honor system, and you're making this, and you're still paying the $40 a year, that's affecting our chapter or our division.
We have no way of verifying what you say.
Yeah.
We take you as an honest person.
Right.
And I think, for the most part, we're an honest profession. So I would hope so, too.
We'll take one more question. There was okay. She got to get two in now. Good.
I don't know if that's a question. So this year is the year of Future Ready. Do you have a theme?
Well, mine's career sustainability.
And mine would be renewal and engagement.
Could you repeat that?
Career sustainability and renewal and engagement. I know, we need some sort of catchphrase.
Well, I want to thank Deb and David for their time tonight and for their candor.
Well, thank you for having us.
And thank all of you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to DCSLA Radio. For more information about our chapter, or to listen to previous episodes from other events, please visit our website at www.dc.sla.org.